Yay. All
Okay.
righty. So, hello everyone. Welcome to our live Cracking Open a Cold One with your host Doug Graves, the friendly neighborhood necromancer, and with the returning guest speaker, our Mambo Tonya Jones. So, it's been a hot minute since I've last went live with readings or whatnot, but I've been pretty busy doing stuff in the back, but rest assured, I'll be back more regularly on once everything's done. But we have quite the topic for you guys today. Ethics and spirituality um, can go very very deep with it, or but I'm not sure. Like, on where do you want to start, Auntie? Did you want to start with the individual basis first before we move on to like the more grittier stuff? Not that
Yeah, I
individual
mean, I honestly
individual
think,
bases are
yeah,
gritty.
the individual ethics, each person and their practice and how they conduct themselves. Because, of course, you can go into traditions with a certain ethics and morals that you stand on before you even get into that tradition. And I think that a lot of us, when we start walking the spiritual path, that we have a certain code of ethics that we want to follow, as far as exploring our spirituality. So I think that would be a really good starting point because I know coming into it, especially coming into Haitian Vodou, I didn't have a specific idea of reglement. So I didn't know what like the group dynamics or the house dynamics were because of course that wasn't explained to me prior to my initiation. And I didn't do 70s TED. So I kind of came into things late. But I did come in with a certain code of ethics that I wanted to have to present myself with. What about you?
Well, I mean, when we're talking about like spiritual stuff and religious and esoteric matter, ethics, being in and of itself is one of those things that calls to question, like especially depending on which traditions you follow and which traditions I personally like to follow. Can mold you or shape you into the person that you want to be, or live the life that you want to. I know for a fact that for myself, wanting to lead a spiritual life, explored many other traditions, and every single one has their own code of ethics and their own like ways of living and how to act. Um,
Absolutely.
Especially like the mainstream religions, they are very obvious in their holy texts or sacred texts, as how one wants to live. But it gets a little bit more ambiguous when you're looking into like more of the not so mainstream um, ones, the African diaspora, African traditional religions, for one, but also the Reconstructionist beliefs like Norse paganism are also kind of uh, depending on like who's which literature you're looking at, and as well as who's talking,
Hmm.
uh, will differ on a case to case basis. But more often than not, a lot of the revival traditions are on the side of being more progressive, rather than sticking to what once was. But again, a lot of it was lost in history, depending on which tradition you're looking at, and a lot of it is kind of more modern inception. Other traditions have more modern inceptions and other things which run counter to the traditions they what do you call it? Claim to have broken away from. Um, Things like the Abrahamic religions and the Satanic movement, for one, and of course, going to Eastern uh, traditions, you would find left and right paths and workings, just to gloss over it, or the choosing of right and left hand methodologies. of achieving, not just spiritual elevation, but also, I guess, moral enlightenment or self-enlightenment. The morality kind of, comes with the territory.
It is true, because I remember starting on my journey and talking to a lady that I had met at some meditation group, and she was following the darker path. And when we started talking about our perception of what we wanted our spiritual journey to be, um, her thing was that she wanted to set things right, and she wanted to walk a path that would be more aggressive in getting things done. And her ethical take on it was completely different than mine on my path. And I found that really interesting, because it really helped me open up, not to be judgmental, because of the way that she was going, because her ethics, the way that she thought actually fit the path that she was walking. And then that's when I kind of realized that, even in spirituality, like, you have a lot of people that are love and light. Oh, you have to be love and light. Don't be nothing but love and light. And then they have their ethics and their morals that go towards that. But when you choose to walk a path that is, I would say, more progressive or different than the love and light, or let's save humanity type of energy. I mean, when I first met you, Demon King was like the thing, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? Is he fucking people up? What is he doing? Because he's the Demon King. But getting to know you and realizing that your path and the way that you conducted yourself still was in alignment. It was really interesting for me. And I think a lot of people coming into spirituality tend to look at things that are different as a negativity, that, oh, that's not ethical, or that's not, you can't do that. But like you said, it depends on what tradition or practice that you are doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because a lot of the stuff, when we talk about religion and spirituality, the idea is that it's supposed to change you, whether it is a spiritual tradition or one of the mainstream religions, because that's the whole point of it,
Right.
is trying to live a different life or live a better life, under a certain guise or certain rules. Maybe yours, maybe others. It just depends, right? But but the whole idea is self-transformation, right? At least when it comes to the individual. Um,
Yeah, I agree. Well, it should be. It should be. I think when you come and you walk in a path, you're right, it's supposed to be about self-transformation. The thing that I've noticed with some people, though, when it comes to personal ethics and morals, if you don't have a concrete foundation for that, it's really easy to connect into traditions and be led the wrong way, because your foundation isn't already set on what your ethics or what your morals are. And you start to trust that people can think better than you can when it comes to personal, individual ethics. And I've seen this with a lot of people, where it's
that's
like, I think the way that they think, I think the way that my godparents think, or I think the way, and you kind of come in already losing yourself, because you're not really getting the self-discovery out of the spiritual, awakening or journey.
Well, yeah, that's true. But the thing is, those particular relationships, and I know we're going to be going back to it, but there's a
Yeah,
significant amount of trust placed in the seeker for I'm hoping that this person, that appears to be nice and has a good solid foundation and seems to be well grounded, is not a dick, right? But
yeah.
there's also the flip side of having a bad godchild with a good godparent as well, right? And we've seen that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, when you start your journey and you're going into something, you have a moral compass of what you want to accomplish. And it's so easy for somebody who has a different view from a person or a group or a society that they're trying to connect with, for that to be completely different. But it can also throw off the group or the organization that you're coming in. I know for myself personally, just watching other people that I've dealt with, sometimes our way of thinking, of course, doesn't mesh. And I'm open. I'm like, okay, you think your way, I think my way. But I've noticed that a lot of times if we come into a situation with a lot of negativity or the wrong intentions in our personal journey, we can actually screw things up or make things harder for ourselves because
True. Not to jump ahead, but definitely compounded, which with by the spiritual traditions that you're following too, right?
yeah.
Because some are more forgiving, others are not. Um,
Oh yeah.
some can be
Absolutely.
easily manipulated, some cannot. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's also really powerful if you think about it. Like the if the uns well, I don't know if people have put much thought or like kind of sat down and contemplated the power of belief. Whether it be coming from a religion or a spiritual tradition, of how something can be misinterpreted, right? And that can warp someone's sense of morality too, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit more extreme, but people following the LHP, that can, if you don't have a good foundation or don't know what you're doing, or you can easily misinterpret something.
Uh-oh, did he freak?
No, I'm here.
No,
Sorry.
you're right.
Sorry, did I freeze?
You just for a little bit. Just for a
Oh,
little bit, you came right back.
okay.
No, you're all right. I mean, of course, it depends on your tradition. It depends on what you are expecting to get from, what you're following. It depends on the spirits that you are working with. For me personally, when my first thing that I connected with was hoodoo, and hoodoo to me was very ancestral, and it was almost like, how did I want my ancestors to see me? And I'm going back thinking of my grandmother and other people who raised me. I grew up on a street where my whole family lived on this one street, and all of them were elders. So when they crossed over, I'm like, okay, all these people know me. So if I get up here and I'm doing some things that are out of pocket, would that tarnish me or cause problems with me with my ancestors who I was trying to elevate and I was trying to have a connection with? So my ethics going into hoodoo were very like, okay, I want to be respectful. I don't want to do anything that's going to be too, to the left or to the right with my ancestry. So I already had an idea of respect and how I wanted to go into the tradition. And I still hold that same energy. Now, with Vodou, I really came into it with like, oh my God, the Loa, powerful. Spirits that you really don't want to play with, because I was learning. So there was this really thing of, okay, let me come in and let me keep my head down and be taught the right way. Let me not be egotistical. Let me not be too wild. And I really wanted to come in love and light and all that stuff that's going on. That was year number 1. We're going into year number, what, 4 or 5? My ethics at the beginning were do no harm, don't hurt anybody, don't cause any problems, connect with your spirits and stuff like that. Coming into this year, having to deal with people that have thrown at me and other things that I have learned, my moral compass and my ethics are can't get the word out, is like, you get what you get. It's a different type of energy. I don't think it's necessarily the spirits changed me. I don't think that. I think what happened is that when you go into something and say you don't want to cause harm, or you want to be, you know, the good person or the better person, or you just want to connect with your spirits, and that is your morals. That's the way you were raised. That's the way you want to do things. And then you come across these battles, these spiritual battles, these things that come in, and then they start to shape you into a worker, into a fighter, because maybe that's what spirit wants you to be, or maybe they want you to get in touch with that side. I never thought that I would have the feelings that I have today that I didn't have at the beginning of that journey. But I think that was part of my self-awareness too.
That's true, but then you also have to look at voodoo itself, right? Or at least Haitian voodoo itself. and the history and the kind of culture that it's been brought in, well, brought, you know, that's
Right.
forged by, right?
From struggles to fight to conflict to fight. Haitians are warriors. They are. So you're right. It could have been the energy, definitely, of the religion. Even if you wanted to come in and be, and I think a lot of people, they always come in with voodoo negative anyway. Most people are already come in with the negative aspect. I want to fuck people up. I want to learn how to do the work. I want to, blow people up and send spirit.
Well, yeah, but that's Hollywood, right? That's, Western perceptions of what voodoo is, and like actually with the majority of the ADRs, right?
And like you said, with the majority of the ATRs, a lot of people come in them with the idea that they want power. They want to, they want to do something. And I think it's not even ATRs.
Well, I mean, true, but there are traditions that are kind of like that are more left leaning.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
definitely left leaning, but again, it's one of those things where it's like you have to know somebody, or you have to be a little deeper into knowing the region of beliefs to be able to
Absolutely.
right. And of course, all these religions are spirit led, so if you are able to find one, there's a good chance that spirit is leading you, right?
Spirit calls you to your path. And I think a lot of people get confused with that because in 2022, we have a lot of people that feel like that they can just join anything
I
and
mean,
walk any path. But I really do believe that you were called to a path because there is growth. There is a connection with spirit and you're there for a reason. Um, but I see a lot of people that think, oh, Paulo is cute. I want to do Paulo because you get to work with dead things and send dead out and everything like that, and it's powerful. And the way that they think going in is already a little bit misconstrued, I believe, because you don't understand the tradition fully. There's so many beautiful things that are attached to ATRs. Is there power? Is there conflict? Is there fight? Is there power there? Of course.
but it's
You
not the
into
only
something
thing
too, I
that's there.
think.
It's not the only.
Say that again.
It's not the only thing that's there.
It's not, but I think, like you say, we deal with Hollywood stigmatisms on things, the stigma of what they think that African traditions are, how they're represented in movies, and how people when they join these traditions think that it's going to be. I remember one time being in New Orleans and this man, and it wasn't at a fete, it was at some guy, I think it was a drumming circle or something. Everybody was there, and this guy came and he had like red paint under his eyes, and he was telling me that it was blood and he had just sacrificed an animal, and he was this strong-willed guy or whatever, and he was like, I'm gonna fuck people up, I'm gonna fuck people. And that's all I remember him you know, talking about. And so he was like, I want to be an Ugan or a Tata or blah, blah. Now, here's the thing. He didn't care which one. He didn't care what tradition, as long as it was the tradition to fuck people up. So his ethics going in were already that I want conflict. I want to fight. I want to deal with the darker aspects of these traditions. And they do have darker aspects. They do. But it kind of was like, damn, he'll find what he's looking for, but will it be good for him?
Exactly, because they're not the healthiest things to be around all the time.
No. And somebody told me a few months later, because I asked about him, and they was like, he flipped. Now, to be honest, I think he was kind of flipped before he even went in. I can't remember which one that he went into, but whichever one that he went into, he flipped, and they ended up having to commit him. And we see this with a lot of people, though, in the traditions. And like you say, we can deal with that with the group dynamics. But if you are not grounded and you don't understand what your moral compass is or what your ethics are going into something, you can get lost.
Or
You
be
can.
transformed in a way that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, you really can. You're dealing with powerful energies, and it's not just ATRs. I remember being in high school and having a best friend, and we were being bullied every day from coming out of school. And so she told me she was going to go to the library and research some things. And next thing I know, 2 weeks later, she was a full-blown witch because she got tired of people fucking with her. So she's like, I'm fixing to put spells on these people. And at the time, I was kind of like, oh, because we're in Catholic school. I'm like, oh no, we can't do that. Jesus is going to burn us alive. We can't do this. And she was like, fuck Jesus. She was full-fledged witch. And her thing was, this is the path, and she's still that way. She's never changed. Once she made the decision and spirit was like, led her to the library, to the right books, she was like, yes, this is my path. This is my path. And I completely respect her. I completely respect her to this day.
Well, I mean, like, magic notwithstanding, I mean, not to knock low-hanging fruit, but I mean, we've already seen, how religion can also warp other people's ethics too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I came into tradition as a Catholic. You can't get much holier than that. I just don't know if you can. And my belief system was, you do no harm to people. You come in, at the time the Bible was like, turn the other cheek, you pray for people. And I think that shaped, of course, my upbringing. I was born Catholic. So from, a baby on up, that's what I was taught. The Catholic in me would not believe the shit that I've seen at this point in my life, because I never thought I would be here in this situation. But my ethics and my morals were shaped by my religious upbringing first, of course. Of course. When my friend decided she was going to be a witch, I prayed for her. I was like, oh, what the fuck happened with her? She just flipped. Let me pray for her. But she found her path, and she was like, I'm on it. My belief system at that time would not even let me entertain that, because it went against who I was at that point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but what I was actually trying to more make a point is that how many things have we seen so far that religion tries to justify, but it's very detrimental to humanity.
We've seen, well, you're dealing with definitely a lot of things that are, to me, first of all, the history on a lot of things is not, of course, right. So there's a lot of brainwashing, and there is a lot of judgment. We grew up thinking that if you did anything against God or Jesus, that you were going to burn in hell, and having other belief systems and other deities and things like that were wrong. Now, fast forward to Haitian Voodoo, there are several Loa that I serve, and there is a God, there is a higher power, but I don't believe that I'm going against that power at this point. But yeah, if you would have caught me like 20 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's not right. And
I mean, that's true, but the thing is, voodoo and Catholicism, even though they do inform each other on some levels, like at their roots, their perspectives on certain things, like the supreme being, are very different, right?
very, very different. Absolutely.
Like one
Very
point is
different.
that in the Catholic Church, they believe that God, is highly involved in everyone's lives. Whereas in voodoo, it's less seen as, it is not exactly involved as much as it's busy doing other things, and that's why the Loa are there. Right?
Exactly. We know he exists, but I think in voodoo, there's a lot of self, how would you say it? Instead of waiting around for God to so-called come and fix your life, in voodoo, we're working with the Loa actively to change our situation for ourselves. So there's a little bit more of an interaction in Haitian voodoo.
Well, actually, the human interaction portion is that's one of the things that are pretty um if anything, it's across the board when it comes to ADRs and ATRs, where human involvement and human hands are part of the equation, right? It's not just come save me, Jesus. Oh, here, Jesus, take the wheel. It's like, okay, Jesus is the co-pilot, or Spirit is co-pilot, and they're the ones that are directing you, or aiding you
Yeah.
in your journey, right?
But
But
I think,
your hands are still on the steering wheel.
I like that, to be honest.
To
Of
be
course,
interject, sorry. Like I think it's if we're talking about like direct spirit involvement, I would probably say that is one of the more healthier, if not the healthiest, interactions that you can have when dealing with the esoteric, right?
absolutely.
Where the human, the individual, puts 50% of the effort into the work as well.
I, because I think honestly, it makes more sense. It's logical. It's logical. I'm not going to say that, depending on the spirits that you work with, I'm not going to say that they cannot make your life better, or they cannot open roads, or they cannot bring in things that you need. But the amount of people that are sitting on their couch waiting for their life to change, and they're saying, Jesus, take the wheel. And of course, Jesus is my homeboy. I don't have nothing against Jesus. Believe what you want to believe. Hold up, they're attacking the dog.
Oh shit.
Let me see what's going on.
Oops. But I mean, to all the viewers, like if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to start asking questions if you like. Open the floor. Um, not necessarily reading questions, but at least questions upon the topic, or if you have any like I don't know things you want to state, more than welcome. Yeah. So Nika, you're still on, right? Are you gonna come on to read anytime soon? Sweet. I mean, I had a thought, but now it's gone. Shoot.
Oh my goodness. All right. I am sorry. The animal kingdom.
Oh goodness, is the dog okay?
The dog is okay. Somebody down the street has a black pit bull,
Oh,
and they let him roam. And so he attacked the smaller dog, and she ran into her garage across the street. And I was trying to get her to come in here, but she's okay. I think the cats were trying to fight the pit bull for her. So yeah, it was Animal Kingdom gone wild over here.
gotcha.
But where did you leave off at? Because I like where you were going.
Uh, Let me try to remember because I think it was more. What was it about? Now that I'm trying to remember now,
Do you see questions or anything, or is it just me and you talking?
it's just us talking. I haven't seen a question yet. There was a statement earlier, but yeah, I do agree. But some might not agree with that particular statement with vaginas. Hers is you shouldn't cut other people down for your gain. It's honestly not that hard to be decent. We are all on a journey in this life. We shouldn't judge others, nor should we take what we have chosen to be and beat someone over the head to make them think the same as way as others. True. And when it comes to organized religions and the mainstream religions, that's very applicable. But if we're talking about like solitary traditions and other things, like I really dislike, well, I don't really want to keep toting about the LHP, but highly individualistic traditions like that run on a different drum beat, so to speak. Um,
I mean, I think across the board, people with ego and entitlement issues, and some with mental instability, it doesn't matter what they practice. If their purpose is to do harm, they're not going to follow the rules. They're not going to follow reglement. They're not going to follow the traditions because they have no intention of following the tradition. And that goes back to your personal ethics too. If you're going into anything knowing that you're not going to do it the right way, and you know that you are going to attack people or you're going to cause harm. These are people that are just trying to get knowledge so that they can do what they want to do. We see this across the board. You see it in a lot of different traditions, and not only ATRs. There in ATRs, I think there's more consequences um, for your behavior for a lot of people. I mean, you
Well,
practice.
well, I mean, like, I don't know about behavior as much as the things that you've taken vows for and things that you promise that get broken.
Right.
There's a heavy price to go back on what you've sworn or what you've uh, promised, or what you've um, uh, like you know
If you believe it, if you believe it, there is are
well,
there people that,
I don't know about believing it because I've heard the horror stories and
but
from
but that's the thing though. You do have people that join traditions or get involved in organizations or certain practices. They don't take it seriously, or they don't connect to the danger that could be there. And there's always a danger. I was looking at a TikTok, and this lady was summoning a demon, and I forgot the name that she used, but she said her mentor told her, do not summon this particular demon because you haven't learned the evocation right. You don't know the right things to say to present yourself to this demon or whatever. And the lady on the TikTok was like, I don't care. He came to me in a dream. He wanted to work with me, so I'm going to go ahead and summon him and do him the way that I want to do. Well, the next TikTok was she was in the hospital um, with oxygen in her nose, and she was upset with her mentor because she was like, she allowed me to get hurt through her, her leadership. And of course, everybody in the comments was like, no, you did not follow the rules.
well, I mean, in every spiritual, well, I don't know about the religions, but every spiritual traditions, there's always a fuck around and find out moments, right? Learning opportunities, and
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
a story like that, there's one in a dozen that people don't seem to hear, or once in a while they'll come across, because that's a either it's not that people don't want to talk about it as much as they don't want to hear it, or two,
Yeah.
it's not driving the point home, where people don't like talking about it because even though it's part of that culture, tradition, or whatever, um, or the history of said tradition, it's one of those things. It's a taboo topic because you're the what is it? The expectation is that you're safe when it's all that, like, magic and sorcery and every other spiritual tradition. It's really not, right? Like, there are pitfalls, there are
Absolutely.
dangers. It's just whether or not you are willing to be molded, changed by the standards that said tradition places before you, on top of the listening to instructions and shit like that, right?
Right.
And hopefully not having the unscrupulous teacher, unscrupulous mentor bit too. But aside from that, a
Yeah.
student or seeker coming in good faith, right? That's the expectation.
Exactly. Me personally, I don't know, what do you have to gain by going into something if you're not going to do it the right way? If you're not going to do it the right way, if you're not going to respect the tradition, and when we talk about traditions, we're talking about traditions that are thousands of years old, that have been passed down. And when you go in it, like, we get this thing about the new age people and the old school people and this, and there's so, much stuff about what we do now versus what was done then. When you deal with certain elders and you're taught the old ways, they want you to carry the old ways. There's certain things that if I went to go talk to Mama Star and go, oh, I'm going to put this in my oils or whatever, she would look at me like I'm crazy because I wasn't taught that way. But there are people that have mentors and elders, and they're like, okay, yeah, you know what? I get what you're saying, but I want to go ahead and do it my way and add it my way, or whatever. And then we have these issues. And then all of a sudden the person is a bad mentor, or, you know, they didn't do right by me because I got hurt or I put myself in a position. And you have a responsibility of how you go into something. You do. If you're not going to listen, then you don't need to do it. If you have a hard time following rules, then you don't need to go into a tradition or an ATR that has rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
get that with a lot of people with Vodou, they want to do it, but I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want somebody over me. I don't want the spirits having to talk to the spirits to get their permission or whatever. And I'm like,
but I mean
but
that's literally the tradition. That's really
exactly.
that's how it's
So
done.
why are you going into this if this is something that you don't want to do? Why you're wasting your time and your energy? And that kind of goes back to your personal journey. What do you want? What are you expecting out of this? You know?
That's true, but you know, there's also this the factor when at least when it comes to the ADRs and ATRs is that you know you're also wasting spirit's time, right?
And a lot of them won't let their time be wasted, and they will abandon you, and they will leave you wide open. And like you say, you will fuck around and find out.
Well, you know, like abandoning said individual is probably the best case scenario.
Oh, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think um, you have to be very careful about what you choose to go into. And then, of course, I always speak respect. But a lot of people don't realize that when you make pacts and you make commitments, you are literally, your word is bond to these spirits. You're making an agreement. Um, and it kills me whenever I see people that, you know, they'll have these statues of Santa Marta and then the Loa or Orisha. And then 6 months later, they're like, you know what? I didn't get what I want. I don't want to do this anymore. So now I'm going to put this stuff in a box and throw it away or ship it off somewhere. And I'm like,
Well,
you can't.
exactly, because if like when we're talking about ethics, we're just also not talking about like interhuman relationships, but if we're talking about like highly spirit intensive involved traditions like African ones, there's
Yeah,
also the ethics between you and your spirit too, not just about
absolutely.
like what you say and swear to spirit, but how you treat them, right?
Yeah. I think people need to
Because
look at that. I think when you talk about your personal ethics of how you go into a tradition, if you are going into a tradition or you are practicing something, you are connecting with spirit. What is your ethics? What is your ethical how would you say it? How would you present yourself to spirit? And spirit knows everything. I tell people all the time, you can't fake the funk with spirit. You can't go
yeah,
into these traditions like, and then get in there and try to fuck shit up. Spirit already knows.
oh yeah,
They
yeah,
already
no, yeah, definitely. Like during one of my sessions with my ta, the pot literally said to me that, or you know, interpretation through my ta was, "Don't lie to me. You can lie to everyone else. Don't lie to me."
apply to me.
It's like I
Because
don't
they
have
know.
any gain by lying to you.
And a lot of people do it. A lot of people do it.
Yeah, and it's like what I mean, you know, it it still boggles me, but maybe it's just maybe they don't believe it, or maybe it's just oh maybe I'll get away with it, or maybe they're that forgiving. It's like, dude, I don't know who some of these. A lot of them don't like. Well, if anything, all of them do not like being insulted, and they do not like their intelligence tested.
And they don't like their time wasted. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I think honestly, if you're going into anything with an agenda other than to connect with spirit and to grow spiritually, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have personal issues. And people ask me, why do some people prosper and some people don't? And it's because spirit, they see you. They see you. They know what you're doing. You know, you get a ton of people that go to Haiti every year and they pay for a title because they think that the title is going to open doors for them, but they don't realize the spirit can also shut doors, can completely close doors and make your life miserable. Why would you put yourself in a position to have something like that done to you? And I always tell people, even when I get all these people in my inbox, I want you to be my godmother. I want you to be my godmother. Why? Why? And then a lot of them is because, well, you know, I'm having problems with people. I want to learn voodoo so I can protect myself. Not the best reason. That's not the reason that I want to hear that you go into this. I went into it because I love the tradition. I love the religion. I already had a connection with the spirits and I wanted to grow more into them. And I wanted to go in and be taught and to learn the proper ways, not out here because it's a fad, because that's what we get. We get a lot of people that join things because they think it looks good on IG and they can post all these cool pictures of them burning candles with rose petals and making these beautiful baths. And then everybody's like, oh, that's voodoo, that's spirituality. When you go to Haiti, the baths do not look anything like the stuff you see on IG. And it's like you're not representing this the right way. And then when they realize what they have to do to learn the proper ways, then it's like, oh, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And we've seen that.
Well, that's the thing. Well, it also kind of ties into one of the previous episodes, cultural appropriation, like that colonization mentality of like how a religion or some aspect of someone's culture is a prop or a costume,
Mm.
right? But I mean, like it's bad on all. It's bad however you take it. But I mean, like it's it's way more involved. But I'm gonna open the floor for questions. I will be right back.
Okay.
But if you can talk your that ear off, I'd be much appreciated.
Okay. So I'm curious to see what you guys, hey Poops, what you guys think. Because I think the spiritual journey is a highly personal thing. I don't think that one journey looks like the other. Each person has their individual perception of what their journey is and what they're being called to. And I think most people are open because some people this takes them by complete control. Like I didn't think I would be doing this. I definitely didn't think I would be a Mambo. And so when I got called on this journey and then I realized the things that they were asking me to do, I was like, oh, hold up, wait a minute. I don't know if this is for me. Um, I didn't have any negative preconceptions about what Vodou was. I did not. I actually went into it with a really open mind and a really open heart. And I'm glad that I did because I was teachable. I didn't go into a tradition like, oh, I know everything. I didn't go into it with ego. I didn't go into it expecting something out of it. I went into it to learn, to connect with spirit and learn. And so I think my personal ethics going in were there was a solid foundation for me. I've learned a lot since then about balancing my energy because when I went in, I was, oh, I want to love everybody. I want to swing from the trees. I want to run through the fields and connect with the spirits and swim in the ocean with the spirits. And that's a beautiful aspect of it. And I still have those moments. But I've also learned through spirit is that sometimes you have to um, be open or be taught how to also be a warrior because like Marcus is saying, you're dealing with spirits that come from an energy of conflict and war. Even with ancestry, you're dealing with people that did a lot of work for survival. They didn't do a lot of work to find love or to, you know, um, bring somebody back or nail somebody down. They were literally trying to survive. And a lot of these traditions and things will help you, they help you grow because they help you become stronger. Even when you look at European witchcraft with, women that were burned at the stake for what they believed in. And then you have women that don't take it seriously. And how offensive is that to the people who have died because they did believe in what they practiced and what they were doing. So there's so many ways that you can go into a tradition, but the most important way is to be respectful and to have a foundation. At least have a foundation. That way you can't be played. Because if you go into it, just free willy-nilly or open-minded, because there's a ton of people that join tradition and it's like, I want you to think for me. I want you to control me and possess me, and that's why I'm coming in under you so you can think for me and tell me what to do. No, I don't want that. That makes to me a weak tradition or a weak house when you have people that come in and they need to be taught how to think for themselves and what is ethically right for them. No. Tell me where you want to go, and then we'll work on where you want to go.
Well, I mean, coming from the African diasporic perspective, I mean, like, I think we had a war about why that is bad.
Yeah, exactly. People trying to control you and, get you to think for yourself. And then we have that major revolution of people fighting against oppression so that you could stand strong. And I think that when you treat these belief systems or traditions like they are a fad, like, a lot of people, and I say this over and over again, if they started burning witches today, a lot of people would take their head wraps off. They take those jewels off their arms. They would, delete their witchy pictures off their IG because they would not want to be caught up in that. There's a connection with spirit that if you truly believe in something, then you're willing to die for it. You're willing to stand for it. And I think honestly, if you're going into something that you can say that you would be willing to make that type of commitment to, then that's probably not the journey that you need to take.
Or maybe you're just not ready for it yet.
Or you're not ready for it. That's true. Because you're right. 30 years ago, I would have been like, hell no. Hell no, I'm not walking this path because I was not ready. And I sure as hell wasn't committing to nothing, and I wasn't going to sacrifice for anything other than my children. But now I have a strong connection with my spirit, and I do believe strongly that if I had to stand for my tradition, for my spirits, 100% I would. 100% I would. Because I live very out loud with it. I couldn't go back into the closet if I wanted to. Because, I'm out. And that was part of my journey. And a lot of people, my clients and stuff that I worked with when I first came back from Haiti, a ton of clients left me because of voodoo. They could not stand that word because it was such a negative word to them. And it was like, one of my clients was like, you should not be on lives. You not should be on your page talking about it. You should, downplay it and not present it. No, that's to me. Why would I? I'm not embarrassed of my spirits. I'm not embarrassed about my journey. I wasn't embarrassed being a Catholic. Why would I be embarrassed about, being a Mambo and what I practice now? So no.
Well, I think one of the things that, is one of the biggest hallmarks of, like, ethics and morality when it comes to spirituality, I think it's the whole genuinity of a person and the way they can express themselves as genuinely as openly as they can, right?
I think so too. I've noticed this trend where you have all these people coming out now and they're trying to tell you what a witch is supposed to be and what a witch is supposed to act like. What a Polero is supposed to be and what a Polero is supposed to act like. What a Mambo is supposed to be and what a Mambo is supposed to act like. There's so many different personalities and characteristics that make a person who they are. And the tradition shouldn't change you. It should enhance you. It should enhance your connection with spirit and the way that you see things on your journey. But
Well, it depends, right? Because
I
we're
mean,
like we're all of it is for self improvement, better.
self-improvement is
And
there, but I'm not going to sit up here and, sit on here and be praying and nodding my head and tell you that I don't drink and I don't smoke because I went on this journey. Has my
true,
perception changed? Yes.
true. But I mean, but voodoo doesn't really have that. Maybe the Abrahamic religions do, but
Depending on right, depending on what tradition you're
yeah.
or what you're going to. You're absolutely right.
Then again, like the diaspora, very different history, very different culture, right?
You're absolutely right. There are some traditions and there's some things that you're right, you would go into that they would change, the way you are or the way you present yourself. Before I even thought about voodoo, I wanted to be a nun, which would have completely, I don't know if it would have changed me because I think at that point that I made that decision, I actually was living that life. And I was willing to, I wanted to go be a nun where they took the vow of silence, where I was going to be living in, a convent where we didn't talk and we didn't speak because I thought that was cool at the time. Lord help me now, if I had ever done that and gone into it now, they probably would have put my ass out. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But I think I walk the path that fits me and it allows me to be who I am as long as I am respectful to my societe, to my mommy ma, to my god siblings, you know, you, my nephew, and my sisters and other brothers. Um,
And
but
ultimately, and spirit, right?
and spirit. I mean, that's you know, first and foremost. Um, how they see me is important to me. And when they slap me on the head and they tell me to stop, I stop. When they tell me I'm going too far, I pull myself back in. And my spirits tell me that. My spirits are the ones that hold me in check. But then, of course, you know, I have Mommy Maud, and I'm sure that if I stepped out of line too far, she would probably knock me in the head back to, you know, reality, which is, you know, the beauty of a godparent, too, the right godparent.
Hmm. Nika's, I think, reiterating or reinforcing the fact that part of the problem is that people judge you against what they believe and what religion they follow. But again, that's true. I mean, especially when
Yeah,
it comes to the mainstream religions, it's not, sorry, it's not just within the Abrahamic ones. There's others too that partake in this particular activity. Some more surprising to others than when you find out. But I mean, it's not unique to one religion.
it's not. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of foundation of religion is, for some people, is the judgment. You know, if you don't act a certain way, if you don't pray a certain way, if you don't do a certain thing, that you're going to be judged. But like you say, it really depends on what path that you're walking. Um,
I mean, when we're getting to like the judgment bit, right? It's like it's really just how that particular religions and what their ground rules are and what their sacred texts dictate as to what can or cannot be judged or what has moral what like they kind of set the standard of what is moral or the what's the word I'm looking for here? What
Morally acceptable, or
what has or what can or has intrinsic moral value.
but you know, I've noticed the trend and on social media now you have a lot of people that are, you know, they're changing the narrative. Like I heard somebody the other day say that hoodoo is a closed practice, but it's not.
Well, yeah. Like when they say closed practice, I think they mean that it's something like people who are not African American cannot practice. But in
But
reality,
there are but
but in
there are
reality,
African Americans that were taught hoodoo. So when you go back to Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and the Appalachian Mountains, you're going to find a lot of non-melanated people that do practice hoodoo.
exactly. But I mean, their practices is closed because hoodoo, as Mama Star put it, is predominantly familial, right? The stuff that you've seen that's been blowing up and popularized, that's like
Exactly.
literally commercial hoodoo, right?
And I,
That's
and
taken from other like sources like the Hyatt material, and maybe they were cherry picked from other
right.
families.
I agree. I agree 100% with that. With the stuff that we're seeing now, there's a lot of mixing and moxing, like Mama Star would say, with a lot of it. But when you deal with some ancestral traditions, there are some people, and I don't give a shit who you are, you know, everybody comes from Africa. Everybody has that 2% or that 1% drop. But you do have some families, like Lena's family practices hoodoo. Lena is pasty white, like she's fluorescent white. But she grew up learning hoodoo in a family that it was passed down from, depending on how she was taught or where she was taught or where the tradition comes in. But her ancestors did practice it. So when you're dealing with that and you're telling people, we got a lot of gatekeepers now because they're trying to make something sacred that has been out there. You can find a lot of things with hoodoo and things in certain traditions all over the internet. There's certain closed practices that you have to get initiated with that you don't, some of this stuff is not out there. There are things that you know and I know that other people don't know because it's not mainstream. And I don't know. I guess I get into it. Irritates me when all of a sudden you have these people that are telling people, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do this. Like, why is that your responsibility? If they want to do it and get fucked up, why all of a sudden are you interjecting on it? Like, I get all these people arguing on social media about this, and I'm like, if they want to summon a demon, let them summon a fucking demon and figure the shit out. But you know, we got a lot of people that feel like it's their responsibility to save these people, and I got to be honest, I don't feel like it. If you can't follow the rules, if you go somewhere where you're not supposed to go and something happens to you, then you got to deal with the consequences of it. You know, we get a lot of people that go into these traditions, especially ATRs, because they feel like they have entitlement, but spirit didn't call them. So
And
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, like they end up either crazy or dead, and then it's like someone else's mess to clean up, right? So,
And yeah, and I don't want to clean it up. I don't. You know, I used to. When I first started, I used to feel like it was my duty to help people. Now, if you come to me and you have a question and I can help you and do it right, because I was taught properly. And it was important to me to be taught properly. I don't go on TikTok or Facebook and talk about shit I don't know, because that's misleading to people. But now we got TikTok and these 30-second videos where people are giving half a spell or a piece of spell, and then you have these really ambitious people who want to learn, and they get on there and do it. And I look at some of the stuff and I'm like, somebody should be telling them. But then too, I have to question, why would you feel entitled to go in and do something that you don't know anything about?
sorry to interject, but do you know a person named Hoodoo Delish? I don't, because Nika's been kind of
Oh
talking about it.
yeah. Hoodoo Delish was a white lady that came up with all these recipes and things that she picked up, and she made a lot of money off of it, and a lot of people were buying her products. And then come to find out that she was just appropriating the knowledge, and she was recreating it, not only appropriating it but recreating the work and putting her twist on it. That was crazy, because she had all these people putting butter and leaves on their face and chanting and doing these spells, and I was like, what the
Oh, wait,
even before I even
did they put raisins in their jars too?
raisins in the potato salad. And I mean, it was just it was interesting, because it goes to show you, and the elders sit back and they look at stuff like that and they laugh, and they don't try to correct it, because they're like, you know, she's gonna get fucked up. And I think she had so many people suing her and legal problems and stuff like that that happened out of it. But there's a bunch of hoodoo delish out there. There's a bunch of them that do the same thing.
But I mean, I guess we're getting into a different territory of ethics. But I mean, like the whole charlatan
Yeah.
bit.
Well, you know, business ethics, like what are your responsibilities as a practitioner? If you don't know how to do the work, should you be selling the work? If you don't know how to do the work, should you be posting about the work? But there's a lot of people that are hungry for knowledge, and they see this and they're like, oh, let me go get a bar of butter and a bay leaf, and you know, rub it on my coochie, and it's gonna bring love in, because this is the spell. And you're looking like, what is it? What do your ancestors say? What are your spirits saying? Because you got to think, if you're connected, they would be like, don't you put that shit down there. Your pH balance gonna be fucked up. But we have a ton of people that are doing it, because spirituality right now is $1 billion business. So you got a lot of people that are bringing in people that should not be brought in to traditions or practices. Then you have God kids that are coming in with agendas that do not match their godparents or the traditions that they're coming into. And then the highest level, you have godparents that don't even give a fuck about God kids. They just want the money. And you know, because we've seen that. So there's so many different aspects of the ethics, period, in religion, in the spirituality community right now.
Or you know, the other age-old problem where you know the godparents, you know, try to off their god kids or hex their god kids for really. But that's a whole like other beast of a topic. So
But you know, but we need to talk about it, because it goes back to your foundation and your ethics. when, and I got, and me and you both got God. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I joined a house and I got God. Um, but it was because I had searched for so long and this person was saying the right things. But really, when I go back and look at it, it wasn't what they were saying. It was my desire to be a part of it that sucked me in. And then by the time I got sucked in, I was like, whoa, this person does not have the best intentions for me. And then when I left, then I got all this, we're going to work on you. We're going to bury you in the graveyard. We're going to do this. And that goes to show you the character of a person, because I have God kids. They can go anywhere they want to go. I have no ownership over them whatsoever. I would never work them. I would never put them in a position where they would feel harm. But there's a lot of stuff that's out there about me now that is, I did this, I killed people, and I'm a fraud. And I mean, I've heard all kind of shit about me. And I tell people, research me, come to the fix, come to the house, sit down and talk to me. Look, spend time with me, follow my page, look at my content. The more time that you research somebody, you learn their character, you learn who this person is. I made a mistake. I saw something that I thought was there that wasn't there, and that was on me. It really was on me. But I've dealt with that, and I've seen people who are dealing with that now, where they're godparent. And how can you earn somebody's trust,
But
bring them in, and then fuck them over?
but that's the thing though, because I think me and Matt on one of the other lives that we were together on, we were talking about this too, about a lot of the problems when it comes to godparents abusing god kids. One could be just inherently them just being a dick, right? But a lot of other times a big factor it could be their own translated experience from how they were treated,
Oh,
um, how
absolutely.
they were used by their godparents, right? Or even the group that they were part of, right?
Absolutely. Here, you hit on such a perfect thing. A lot of people assume that a spiritual house cannot be dysfunctional. It could be as dysfunctional as a biological family. It could be very dysfunctional. It can have mental illness in it. It could have narcissism in it. It could have greed in it. There's so many things that could go wrong in spiritual houses. And sometimes you will get an amazing godparent, but your god siblings might be fucked up. There's a lot of different ways that you have to go in and look at to see, do I fit? Do I feel comfortable? Is this the place for me? And had I looked at things a little bit deeper, and I did see red flags, so I can't put that on anybody else. I did see red flags and I chose to move forward. Now that I look at it, I'm like, damn, I saw that and I should have backed away. I saw that and I should have backed away. It wasn't that spirit didn't show me, it was that my desire to belong to something was greater. And then I put trust in people that I probably shouldn't have put trust in.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like you and me both, right? You and
yeah,
me both.
we got God. We got God. And we weren't the only ones that got God. But I think when I look at some of the screenshots that I've been sent where people are talking about me, and how horrible I am, how horrible of a person I am, and I'm sitting up there like, whoa, some of the shit that they say I did, I never thought about, but now it's on my mind, like, damn, maybe I could do that and get away with that shit. But the ethics, going back to my personal ethics, separate me from what they want to make me be or what they want to make me look like. Because if the people know my personal ethics, the people who really know me know what I'm capable of and know what I will and will not do. My God kids that work with me know what I'm capable of and what I will and will not do. Unfortunately, we have a lot of unscrupulous people out there, whether they're God kids or God parents, when it comes to connecting with people. It's really hard nowadays connecting with genuine people. It really is, because so many people wear so many faces that they don't want you to see the genuine part of them. And it makes it hard to move forward with these things, with joining groups and things like that because of
Like,
that.
and on the flip side of it too, like some of those genuine people are hiding from other people because they just don't trust people anymore.
Well, if you have been betrayed, and say, like I said, when you talk about covens and groups and things that people join because they are family oriented or they want a connection to family. Because let's be honest, a lot of people go on a spiritual journey and join houses or communities and things because they come from a very dysfunctional or abused, sometimes community themselves, and they're looking for something better in their spiritual journey. And they're open, their heart is open, you know, they're ready to bring everybody in and hug and kumbaya. And I thought that way when I came into the community. And then, you know, I was surprised that people didn't like me. I really was. I was like, damn, I'm actually a good person. But I was like, damn, some people hate me because I'm a good person. Or some people hate me because I wear red lipstick. And it kind of goes like, what does this have to do with my spirituality? But you deal with issues that are dysfunctional because the person could be dysfunctional. And it could go a lot of ways. And I think you know, some people join traditions or they get in traditions because they are struggling in life. You know, they're trying to make something better. Sometimes they're still in the process of healing. And I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I really do. But you know, sometimes you see some ugliness. And there's a lot of evil people that I've met that are, you know, masquerading as good people, but they're evil as fuck. You
True,
know?
true, very, very true, very true. I mean,
Yeah.
like, what was it? What was the old adage, like, the devil will always appear to you as an angel?
I think it's true. And I think that it's true for a lot. A lot of us when we're looking for that connection, especially if you're trying to find something that is good and nurturing and will fulfill you. You know, I'm flawed. I'd be the first person to say that I'm very flawed. I have a mouth like a sailor. Um, you know, I probably eat unhealthy. Well, ain't no probably to it. I eat unhealthy. Um, you know, I think I do have a temper. I over the years, I thank God for my spirits. I've balanced some of that energy out, but I'm nowhere near a perfect person. And I think when you are saying that you want to be my God kid, you have to look at my flaws and you have to look at my shortcomings to see if that is something that you can work with. And you have every right to look at me and say, she's not healed enough or she's not healthy enough for me to go under her. And I have complete respect for that. I saw some people that had flaws and things, and I didn't want to see the flaws because in my mind, I wanted to put them on a pedestal and for them to be perfect. The fall is really hard when you do that and you elevate people and put them on pedestals that make them subhuman when they're not, they're human. And some of them have mental challenges, some of them have addiction problems, some of them have, you know, things that they're dealing with from childhood that they haven't dealt with. And you're joining them on a journey that may be detrimental to you. Because if they're not in a place where they can lead you or help you, it's not gonna be good. It's gonna be chaotic. And we see that. We see that a lot. It's unfortunate, but I hate to hear the stories about that where people are like, I left my godfather and my godmother and they started working me. That's painful to me. That's like the biggest betrayal to me that you can have. You opened your heart up to somebody spiritually. You've shared things with them. They know your spirits that walk with you, and then they turn around and try to use that to punish you.
Hmm. Hmm. But it's sad because it's not an uncommon story.
It's not, and it's becoming too common, to be honest. It is. And I think you have a right to call people out. If there's something that you don't like, you have a right to talk. There, you know, I remember some guy was doing a live and he was, I don't know what he practiced, but he was somebody's godfather. And he said, you do not have the right to question me. You do not have the right to question my authority. Whatever I tell you to do, you need to do. Me and him would have had a problem because I think for myself, I
Hmm.
can respect you, but I'd be goddamn if I'm fixing to let you. I ain't let nobody take my mind 54 years. What the fuck I look like letting somebody I don't even know come in and talk about they taking my mind and they're gonna think for me. No. I think that's a red flag.
So, well,
It's a
maybe not a red flag
and
as
a lot
much as
of people
on.
are looking for
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, why can't I hear my spirits? And sometimes it's because you're listening to a person. Like I talked to somebody, and it was a couple of months ago, and she was saying that somebody asked her to do some work that she didn't agree with, but she felt obligated to do the work because the woman was like, I took you under my wings, and I need you if you love me and respect me, you'll do my work. And the girl was like, I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't really know how to do the work. And her person kept pushing her. And eventually she ended up cutting ties with the woman, and the woman turned on her. Here's the thing when I see about that: when you have an elder that is asking you to attack somebody for them, it's one of two things. Either they don't know how to do the work themselves and they want you to do the work, and they're going off of your power, or two, they don't want the reversal or the blowback to hit them. They want it to hit you. So you're the sacrifice. You're going to be the one that does the work. And so when they reverse that back to you, it doesn't hit the elder. I have a problem with it either way. I really do. And I think that when it comes to, like you say, your personal ethics, you have every right to stand on what your belief system is. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, don't do it. All these women and men are out here having sex with godparents and people in their spiritual house that say they don't feel comfortable doing it. Stop. You're not supposed to do it anyway. This I think we have to really take accountability for who we are and the path that we're walking, but you also have to be your foundation needs to be set. It needs to be set. There's nothing wrong with wanting to learn and wanting to grow in, your spirituality, whatever you practice. But I think you also have to really pay attention to spirit. And I didn't. My first go around, I didn't. Spirit talked to me and talked to me, and I was like, I hear you, but I don't want to hear you. And I learned a hard lesson. I learned an expensive lesson, and I learned a hard lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay, I guess we're coming to time. But yeah, we should make a part two of this because we touch on so many we touch on so many other subjects too that deserve to have their spot. This
100%. 100%. I think it's good because I think you and I have gone through it. We have gone through it. I mean, I'm not saying anything on here that a lot of people don't know or have not experienced, but I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it because, first of all, they're embarrassed, with their journey. And, some people are like, I'm going into this and I don't really know. And so I'm just assuming that this is what I'm supposed to do. And I think, you need to, you definitely need to open yourself to the possibilities that when you're walking this path, not everything is going to be good. Unfortunately, there are some pitfalls and there's some beautiful things that happen too, though, with the right people.
definitely.
Hmm.
But yeah, did you have any closing remarks before we?
No, I'm just glad that you came up with this and you wanted to talk about it, because you and I both have had, I think, the last few months, have seen this and heard this over and over again. And as many times as we talk about it, it still shocks me that people, like, they're not, some people are not clicking to it. And it's because they want something so bad that they're overlooking the red flags and the things that they need to be looking at. And I hope this opens somebody's eyes that, there is definitely personal ethics to your journey. There is, whatever society or tradition, there are ethics and rules that are followed in those traditions. And then your godparent has a certain responsibility too. All that has to play together.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So thank you for having me. I'm sweating. I got the damn front door open. I'm over here melting.
But yeah, no, but yeah, thank you for coming as always, and honored to have you on the show, Auntie. And I love to talk and well, talk to you. And
Oh, I'm grateful. 100% great. And anytime, I don't mind. Me and you be shooting the breeze anyway.
that's true.
So now we're just sharing our thoughts outwardly because y'all, this is where this started. Like me and him were having a conversation and he comes up and it's like, okay, do you want to talk about it on the live? And I was like, yes.
Let's talk.
So there might be more conversations that come up. There might be more conversations, but thank you so much for having me here. And I hope everybody has a really blessed night. You know, take care, be safe.
Oh yeah. But before we go, did you want to, for those new viewers who happened on this particular video, would you mind introducing yourself, Auntie, and where they can find?
I am Mambo Tonya. I belong to Sosote Nago. Mommy Maud is my mommy. Lucian Vante is my paran. Of course, Doug Graves is my nephew, my wonderful nephew. And of course, a lot of y'all probably know me as also Divinity Diva on my page. You can find me on YouTube, you know, Divinity Diva Facebook, and also Divinity Diva Tarot IG.
Okay, cool. And all of you know that I am Doug Graves, the friendly neighborhood necromancer. You can find me here on on Facebook with the same namesake, the friendly neighborhood necromancer, where you can book private readings with me. And you can also go catch my YouTube channel, The Necropolis of Doug Graves, to catch any of the replays and shows that we've talked about, and also other live readings that have passed. So it was a great conversation. Thank you all to everyone who has come to the live, and thank you for your love and support as always. And we will catch you in the next episode in a couple of weeks or so, depending. But yeah, thank you all, and be blessed and be safe, and we'll catch you again for another episode. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.